Welcome back to another episode of Musa and Friends. And today is a special episode. And today we have in the building Jada Blackwood. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So we usually in this show, we usually like starting with one simple question.
Okay.
Who is Jada?
Tough question.
Yeah?
It shouldn't be a tough question because it's about me. But
Yeah.
I'm Jada. I am, we know each other through work.
Yeah.
I'm a 26-year-old sales rep.
Yeah.
I live here in Toronto.
Yeah.
And what can I say about myself? Yeah, I think I'm just a person that's always willing to learn and talk to new people.
All right.
So I'm excited to sit down with you and talk today.
Okay, awesome. So let's get deep into it. Why sales?
Why sales?
Yeah.
Well, let me give you a little bit of background of how I got into sales.
Yeah.
So I come from a landscape architecture background.
Yeah.
I studied landscape architecture at university.
Okay.
And really my passion was for art and
Yeah.
for design. And I wasn't so great at the math side and like the engineering side
Yeah.
of architecture, which I always had a little bit of an interest in.
Yeah.
And because of that, I gravitated toward landscape architecture, which is,
Okay.
well, at least initially I thought a little bit more environmentally focused,
Yeah.
outdoors. So very unique, a more sustainable type of design.
Yeah.
And now I've come to learn that, especially with the growth of the industry, architecture is quite a sustainable industry as well.
Yeah.
But initially I was more gravitating toward environmental design. So I worked in landscape architecture actually out in Arizona for a little while.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed it, but my passion has always been working with other people
Yeah.
rather than in front on a drafting table or behind a screen working on AutoCAD or doing online design.
Yeah.
So moving from landscape architecture into sales, my goal was to be a little bit more people facing.
Yeah.
And also be challenged by putting myself into uncomfortable situations of a social nature.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what got me into sales. And the reason why I've stayed in the sales industry is just because it challenges me. It's fun to meet new people.
Yeah.
The sales that I currently work in are still within the landscape architecture industry. So get a little bit of application of my studies into what I'm doing now.
Okay. How hard was it switching from Arizona to Canada? Because I know those are two different kinds of lifestyle.
Yeah, very different. But I grew up here in Canada, in the GTA. So I moved to Arizona with my fiance, who at the time was my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Because I graduated during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Wow.
And so it was kind of challenging for me to find a role in landscape architecture here in Ontario.
Yeah.
So we figured, why not try someplace where there's a lot more work opportunity and really put ourselves into a totally new environment. My fiance had spent quite a bit of time in the US, so we were comfortable living there. So yeah, moving back from Arizona to Toronto was kind of hard because I left gorgeous sunny days and came to like winter and cold, but good to be close to family, so not too much of a transition.
I don't know how you did that. If I was there, I'm not coming back to this winter.
Everyone says that.
I am not coming back.
Yeah, whenever I say that, people are like, why did you leave? And I'm like, family.
I guess so. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, now going back to sales. So tell us a little bit about sales. Like, how is it? Like, how do you approach a customer or a potential client?
Well, I guess it really is industry specific.
Yeah.
So I work in the construction building material sales industry. So knowing who your customer is really important. And I have different types of customers, whether it's on the specification or architecture side versus the construction side. So knowing who you're talking to and what's important to them. But I would say the number one most important thing to maintain when you're approaching a customer is confidence.
Wow.
It'll help you gain their trust.
Yeah.
It'll allow you to feel good about what you're selling or what you're offering to them. So yeah, I would say approaching customers with confidence is most important.
Is most important. Okay, right. So let's say when you're approaching a customer, right? How do you know if this person is serious or not? Because I know in sales, there's always those two sides.
Yeah.
There are those who are just like trying to maybe window shop or just looking. Then there are those who are serious. How do you tell the difference?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say probably it's something that you realize after the first interaction.
Yeah.
In that first interaction, you give everybody the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
And you treat them like they're just as valuable as the next customer, whether or not they're serious about the sale or not.
Yeah.
And then afterward, you kind of can monitor how they're responding to you as you're following up, and that'll let you know whether they're serious and want to move forward with what you're offering.
Okay. So to someone who's watching right now, wants to become like a sales rep, what are some of the qualities like someone should build up, or the skills to become like a successful sales rep?
Well, I'm still learning myself.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I never really saw myself working in sales before. So
Yeah.
I actually wasn't certain whether I had the qualities that were important to be in the sales industry.
Yeah.
But what I've learned is having dependability, making sure that you're a credible and reliable person that your customers can trust.
Yeah.
So honesty and dependability, confidence in yourself,
Yeah.
and confidence in what you're selling. And I would also say a passion or a motivation and a drive, because sales is an industry that your reward is very much a reflection of your output of work.
Yeah.
So if you're not putting in the necessary effort, then you're not going to see the rewards.
Yeah.
So making sure that you're the type of person that, can wake up every single day and feel motivated to achieve your goals in the sales industry, I think that's probably one of the most important and encouraging elements.
Okay. So let's now go to so what are some of the products you deal in sales?
Well, so I would probably separate it into two types of products.
Okay.
The first would be service.
Okay.
And that might even be, in many cases, the most important part is the level of service that you offer to a customer is sometimes even more important than the product that you're selling.
Okay.
Now, the product that I'm selling is building materials, construction, and concrete materials.
Yeah.
And so that's the product. I would say that's maybe in some cases, like I said, the secondary type of product after sale or after your service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's service, then the construction stuff.
Yes.
So basically, you have to go to those construction sites, talk to the people who work there, and just interact with them.
Yeah. To describe my role a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I said, I come from a landscape architecture background.
Yeah.
So much of my role is meeting with specifiers, whether that's landscape architects, engineers, or architects. So often I'm in those firms presenting materials, building materials, construction materials that they can specify on their plans.
Yeah.
And then another part of my work would be visiting construction sites, meeting with contractors who are actually purchasing the material. Whether sometimes it's contractors, sometimes it's general contractors or developers. So there's different needs that I focus on, and it depends on who I'm meeting with.
Yeah.
But yeah, my role varies from being inside of architecture firms and also on construction sites or in contractor offices.
Okay. For someone who doesn't know, who is a specifier?
A specifier is the person who writes down on the construction plans what product is to be included. So that's a landscape architect or an engineer or an architect in my industry.
Well, I didn't even know that there are people called specifier. It's an actual role someone has.
Yeah, because technically what they're doing is specifying.
Yeah. Literally specifying. So a specifier.
Yeah, exactly. And what they're making on their plan is a specification.
Yeah. So as we go on to sales, tell us some of the challenges and some of the things you have learned in this role.
Personally, a big challenge for me has been growing a tough skin, or a thick skin, and that's because it's impossible to please everybody. Yeah, I would say. And so understanding that when you're unable to please people and they might get upset or they might have an unpleasant reaction, not taking it personally. And looking for a way to be positive, looking for a way to find a solution that maybe isn't right in front of you, to figure out a way to not necessarily satisfy everybody, but to find a solution that satisfies as many people, as many parties as possible.
Yeah. Okay, so that's one of the challenges.
Yeah.
So what are the biggest lessons you've learned? Like something you didn't know until now you started oh wow, I'm learning this for the first time.
Like something like a skill?
Yeah, like a skill or just anything you've learned you're like, oh wow, I never knew this before.
Um, I would say probably the biggest lesson has been asking as many questions as possible to
Yeah.
everyone around you, because there's always something to be learned.
Yeah.
And you can learn from not only your customer, but
Yeah.
your peers.
Yeah.
And you can also learn from your family and friends. There are people in your life that might not be in the same industry. For me, it's sales.
Yeah.
I often lean on my friends who are in different industries for advice about challenges that they face at work. And I'm able to look at that objectively and then apply it to what I'm doing.
Okay. So being a sales rep, like whatever you're focusing on, can you just use your skills for other things apart from construction stuff and everything? Like, let's say today you feel like, I don't feel like selling this other stuff. Let's say I want to be selling TVs. Is it like an easier switch, or there's also another set of skills you have to learn to know how to sell like TVs?
I guess it really depends on the industry.
Yeah.
Now, in the construction sales industry, typically, I think that a background in design or construction is helpful.
Yeah.
Because often you'll have conversations about constructability of products that you're selling.
Yeah.
So that's always helpful, but it's something that can be learned, I think, outside of like a formal schooling.
Yeah.
The skills definitely that I've learned in my current role, I believe, are transferable to other industries. It might take a little bit of work on my end and immersing myself in a different type of knowledge or different type of product.
Yeah.
But the interpersonal skills that you learn are definitely transferable.
Okay. So what's the bigger goal in sales, like for you personally? Like, let's say Jada in 5 years.
You know what? I have talked about this with my fiance quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think I see myself in a very similar position. I really enjoy what I do currently.
Yeah.
I mean, a typical sales path for a sales rep is moving maybe into a managerial level.
Yeah.
Right now, that's not something I'm thinking of in the next couple of years, just because I'm really loving what I do.
Yeah.
So I think it's just about improving my current skill set and making more relationships and contacts in order to increase my sales.
Okay. So as a salesman, how do you increase your contacts then?
I would say networking, asking some of the people that I'm meeting, whether it's on a construction site or in a firm, about their lives and who on a professional level they have a relationship with. And often through those conversations, they will be more than willing to introduce you to others that might be helpful to you. But also attending networking events that you can find through talking to people, but also there's tons of advertisements on LinkedIn and other websites where it'll connect you with events that you can attend to meet new people.
Yeah. So I've talked to some other couple salespeople. They say some customers can be a little bit hard-headed. How do you deal with a hard-headed customer or a disgruntled customer? Let's say you sold something, maybe the product, something just happened along the lines.
Yeah.
How do you make that kind of customer happy or make him like cool down or something of the sort? How do you deal with a customer who's just dissatisfied?
Yeah, I've run into this a few times, so I've given this a lot of thought. And what I try to do is put myself in their shoes. Empathy is so important. And when I'm upset over a service or a product that I have come into contact with, to be honest with you, what I often need to do is just feel heard and state my case, maybe do a little bit of ranting. And what I appreciate is just having a listening ear on the other end to make me feel heard and appreciated and valued. So that's what I try to do as well. If I'm getting a challenging phone call, I like to just sit and listen, be as empathetic as possible. And typically after those conversations, even if you don't have a solution that's readily available, once that person feels heard, that might actually be a positive solution for you. You don't necessarily have to move any further than that, because it's enough to just feel appreciated.
Okay. So tell us some of how important is it to have some of the construction site stuff you sell around? Like how important is those stuff? Because some people look at buildings, they don't see the importance of it. Like tell us the process of the selling to the installation of everything, like when everything is done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it starts with the specification, like we talked about.
Yeah.
It starts with meeting with an architect, understanding what their vision is, and then offering a potential product that they might consider including on their architecture or landscape architecture plans. From there, construction follows a process of tendering where the owner of a site or the construction manager of a project will release the plans for tender. And at that point, contractors can reach out and bid on the projects. They'll create a proposal in an attempt to win the job. Once that job has been awarded, that's when, once again, I would engage with the contractor and follow through on ensuring that that product that was originally specified is maintained on the during the actual realization of the site. So the first step is meeting with the architect, following through the project to see who it gets awarded to, and that might take a few follow-ups, making sure that you don't lose sight of which contractor gets awarded the project. Once it's awarded, keeping up with the contractor, building a relationship, because at that point, with any construction project, budget is a concern, so they might be looking for ways to reduce costs and potentially shopping around for other products. So it's maintaining a relationship with them or building a relationship if you don't have one already, and offering as many solutions as possible to any stop points that might put the product that was specified at risk of no longer being included on the construction project.
Wow.
And then after that, once the contractor has maintained the product that was specified and ordered whatever material it is, it's visiting the site to make sure that the installation positively reflects the product, taking some photos, encouraging the contractor or expressing your appreciation of them, and then taking some photos that you can share on social media and kind of have a token of pride for that sale that so many people were involved in.
So what happens, like in the times, let's say a contract has been awarded, then the contractor fails, what happens next?
If the contractor fails,
like to deliver the project, probably he got the stuff in, but then maybe there are some delays or maybe there are just some hiccups along the way whereby the contractor fails to deliver appropriately. So how do you solve that issue, or how do you go about it?
Well, if the contractor they're already no longer involved in the project, then it's just searching for whoever has been awarded the contract or the project in absence of that previous contractor. But if there's hiccups and that contractor is experiencing issues with the project where it's being delayed or there's some sort of product availability issue, it's working with them, sitting down, meeting with them, finding solutions to try to have the project realized as quickly as possible or in accordance with their timeline, or as close to what's originally intended as possible. You can't avoid those hiccups. I mean, sometimes stuff happens and the product that was specified is no longer available at the time of the project's realization. Architects might specify a product 3 years or maybe even 10 years in advance. And
10 years in advance?
Yeah, because projects go through so many reviews by the city or the municipality. So sometimes by the time that a project's being realized, that product they specified isn't even available anymore. So it's sitting down with the architect or the contractor and finding something that's as close to what was originally intended for the design as possible.
So does that project get that product gets returned, or it's now becomes scrap? Like that's it.
Well, I was talking in the case that a product was no longer
available,
produced.
What if you have it, then the city is like, no, we don't like that product. Like you need to get something else. Like does that become scrap, or what happens to it?
Well, typically that won't happen because when a project is awarded to a contractor, the contractor submits a sample of that product to an architect. An architect reviews it. They make sure that the color or the design is exactly how they had first intended it. Once they give their stamp of approval, then the material is shipped to the site. And after that, it's pretty rare that there's any sort of issues with the product. If there were an issue with the product, depending on the company, there would be a return process. But usually once a product in the construction industry is approved by an architect, once it's on site, there typically aren't any issues.
Wow. So how important is color and specifications of products to a certain project? Like how important are they?
I would say pretty important, but I also come from a landscape architecture background. So for me, the design aspect is so important because an architect has sat down, they've browsed through a few different options and they've decided what they want to go with. So for them, that color and that look is really important. But to somebody who maybe doesn't have an eye for design or a passion for design, it's less important. But for me personally, I put a lot of importance on it. So I make an effort always to honor what the architect has originally intended for their design through the product that's delivered, and sometimes sitting down with the other parties that are involved in the project and helping them see that vision.
Okay. So basically, so then how important is the quality of the product?
I would say very important. I didn't specify earlier, but I work in commercial construction sales. So these are sites that are going to be experienced by the public.
Yeah.
So they're going to be used for quite a long time, sometimes decades.
Yeah.
So it's important to have something that's sustainable and long lasting and going to maintain its integrity and its style for years to come.
Okay. So you've mentioned you're specifically into commercial sales. What's the difference between commercial sales and other kind of sales?
In the construction industry, there's like commercial as in multifamily, residential, institutional, and industrial and commercial. So that would be condo buildings, shopping centers, even parks, municipal parks and conservation areas. Yeah. Whereas another sector of the construction industry would be single family residential sales. So that would be homes belonging to one family, not townhouse complexes or condos.
Okay. So how you approach those people is different. How you approach like a contractor who's working on a condo building and how you approach a homeowner is two different ways of approaching them, or is similar?
I think there's definitely a difference, but I only approach commercial contractors or commercial landscape architects.
Okay.
I would imagine that if you worked in the single-family residential sector, that your conversations are much more particular to what the homeowner likes. Yeah. You can ask them about what their personal design preferences are. Yeah. Whereas on the commercial side, when you're speaking to a specifier, they're thinking about what the general public would like to see. Yeah. For the most part. I mean, every architecture firm obviously has their stylistic choices that are unique to them. Yeah. But their projects are typically intended to be enjoyed by a large number of people. So they've got to think with that kind of step backward where they're considering large groups. Okay.
So let's say I'm a contractor for a condo building. Let's say I approach you like, I want a certain kind of product. So do the samples, are they like, do I get free samples or they also pay for the samples? How does it go around for you to give out samples to them?
The company that I work for provides free samples. Yeah. I think maybe some companies require payment for samples. Yeah. But I personally think that it should be free because, I mean, a sample is basically just a small representation of a major large-scale purchase. So, I mean, it's a small investment, I believe, for a company that will result in a large sale.
Yeah. So from a small sample, how can an architect know this will work out with one? And yet probably you want like a large quantity. How do you know like it's going to work when you just have one or two, but you have like, let's say 1,000 square foot, but you only have like one sample? How do you know, like, how do you determine if this is going to work?
Well, many firms have precedent projects or previous projects that they've done where they can go out and kind of see an example of what they're looking for. So say it's 1,000 square feet. Yeah. What they'll do is they'll look at similar projects they've done in the past or maybe other firms have done in the past. Yeah. They can take that small sample to the site and visualize it there. Yeah. Or they often use rendering programs, kind of like Photoshop. Or there's a few other softwares that architects use where they can, in 3D renderings, create visualizations of a whole site just using that little sample. Maybe they'll scan it onto their computer or maybe they'll create some sort of design very similar on their...
So it will all appear like there will be like a 3D picture of it, like as if it's been done.
Yeah. When I worked in a landscape architecture firm, I would go over to the firm library, which is just like a little room with shelves and booklets full of samples. Yeah. And I would take whichever one that I like. And sometimes that would require me to sit down and flip through a few of them. Yeah. Take whichever one that I liked or that my project manager preferred for that project. Yeah. I would take it over to my computer and then I would create these visualizations, these images, collages, that sort of thing, using that sample.
Oh, okay. That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So as a lady, what are some of the specific challenges you go through as a lady just going to construction sites? Yeah. Because I know for men it might be different, for ladies it might be different. So for ladies, what are some of the challenges as a lady you go through in terms of commercial sales?
That's a great question. It's definitely a male-dominated industry. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. There are some times where I'll enter a room on the construction side where it's all men and I'm the only woman, and that can be intimidating. And that's why I believe that confidence is so important. In that moment, it's easy to slip into a mentality of remembering what's different about you and making that an insecurity of yours, realizing I'm the only woman here. I have the lower hand here because I'm different. So I think that confidence allows you to put that difference aside and remember we're all human. There's no difference here, and speak to your peers or whoever's around you as if there is only similarities between the two of you. But I would say that's probably one of the biggest challenges. I would also say age, though. It's not only a male-dominated industry, but there's also a lot of seasoned professionals, and that can also be intimidating to walk into a room of professionals that have much more experience than you. And again, you've got to be confident. You've got to remember that you have value as well, although you might have less experience. So just reminding yourself that we are more alike than we are different. So there is nothing to be insecure about here. We're all here to reach a common goal.
So since we live in Canada, we know the weather here is not the best. How do you tackle, like, let's say there's a project, but winter is coming? Like, how do you tackle such a kind of challenges whereby there's a project that needs to be completed, but also when you look at the TV, there's like a winter storm coming? How do you go about it?
I would say that's probably one of the major challenges that I'm facing right now. As we're approaching winter season, a lot of construction projects totally shut down over the winter months.
Down.
Yeah, at least in the sector of the industry that I'm in, which is the landscape portion of projects. Often they'll get shut down around December and then start up again in the early spring. But that means a lot of projects right now in the fall are racing to get completed. And it's not always... Construction is very complicated. All projects have so many facets that contractors have to keep track of. So my role, I believe, as a sales rep is to kind of serve as a reminder for them. I would say a big part of my role is following up with contractors and helping them place their order for the materials that they need on site as quickly as possible, so that we don't end up in a position where we're getting close to December and the site's no longer going to be moving forward, or it's going to be approaching a pause, and having them get the material in time so that they can also avoid any delays in terms of production of those materials.
Okay. So, but have you ever met like contractors who are like just new in the business? Like probably this is his first big job. Like let's say it's his first time handling like a condo, like it's his biggest square foot he has ever done. Have you ever met some kind of people like that?
Definitely. And those people are so exciting to meet because they're entrepreneurs, so they're inspiring to me. And also working on a project at the scale of like a condo building or in the commercial sector, it's challenging, and you've certainly had to make relationships to get there and gain some credibility in the industry and have done great work to win those jobs. So when I meet people that are starting out in those positions, and often they're younger guys that have just opened a company in the past couple of years, I'm always so inspired, and that's when I start asking a lot of questions, because I know that there's so much to learn from a new business owner who's clearly done great work in order to get where they are at such a fast pace.
Okay. Wow. That's interesting.
I
think I've learned so much in sales in one day that I've ever read in books.
Have you met contractors that are, or like new business owners that are only a couple years into their role? And
I've met some who are like even like 3 months into their roles. And usually some of the questions we get, I'm like, you can literally just tell this is the first time. Like, like some of them just come from nowhere just to be inquiring, like window shopping sort of thing. And you can tell like, they're asking like, what's this? What can this do? I have this and this project before they buy. Like he may have a condo building, but probably he has a smaller section to work on. But you can tell this is his first time dealing with this.
And so that's what I like, is when people are so new at something, because at that point, they're so willing to learn as well. They're willing to ask questions and, I think we've all come into contact with people who are very well experienced and are no longer asking questions and no longer willing to learn. So it's really refreshing when you meet somebody that's new at something and they don't have that kind of hardened shell where they think that they
know everything.
They've learned everything there is to know.
Yeah. For me, usually those are my favorite because it makes me look like a professional.
Yeah.
I'm showing this. You don't know this, I'm going to help you. No problem. So how important is teamwork in commercial sales?
Pretty important. On my team, I work actually with a previous peer of mine.
Yeah.
So when you kind of can have a relationship with that person that you're working day to day with, outside of work as well, like on a friendship level, I think that keeps you motivated and you want to see them succeed as well.
Yeah.
I mean, on a team in sales, you're all working to the common goal of making money.
Yeah.
So it's important to have that camaraderie because it's challenging. I mean, you have to get up every single day and make an effort to reach that common goal. So it's helpful to have somebody that's experiencing the same challenges that you can learn from, or you guys can kind of bounce questions off each other.
Okay. So as we wrap up, so tell us something which salespeople don't even know about you, like something nobody knows about sales, like about Jada.
Like me specifically?
Yeah, you specifically, yeah. This is a spot-on question.
Okay, I know one. One of my favorite parts of my job is putting on a hard hat and a construction vest and steel toe boots and walking onto a construction site. And I know that often I look out of place because I'm often the only woman on site or I'm the youngest person, in the room. So even though that's a really uncomfortable position to be in, that's kind of my favorite part because feeling that discomfort when I leave, I feel so relieved and so proud of myself that I put myself in a position that I wasn't confident in and was able to perform.
Oh, most people who I know, they don't like putting on that stuff.
Yeah.
Like safety shoes and all that stuff. Nobody likes putting them on.
Well, maybe if I had to do it every day, I wouldn't love it.
Yeah.
Just because it's something that it's kind of far and in between that I do it. It's fun for me.
So it's fun for you when you go into those construction sites, walking in the mud and everything.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also really cool because for most of my career, I've worked in an office environment.
Yeah.
So I'm always curious about what those who are outside every single day and on a team on a physical level. Like it's different when you're on a team in an office and you're, like I said, bouncing off questions from one another. But when you're on site and doing physical labor with your team members, I feel like that's a whole different type of bonding. So that's really interesting to me.
Okay.
You probably experienced that.
Oh, I've experienced that. But the good thing is like we love the job and everything. So usually it just feels like nothing for us.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's something about being outside that feels like fun with friends.
Oh yeah, it's fun. Plus, like you said, we are not the kind of people who like to sit at the back of our computer and just be typing stuff the whole day. It becomes boring.
Yeah.
Plus, when you meet new people like every day, different customers, people in different professions, because that product brings a lot like sales rep, forklift drivers, truck drivers. You just get to hear the perspective of other people, even which is different, like even out of work. Mm-hmm. You just get to learn how people do things differently.
Yeah.
Because we've even seen people advise people, like even go highs. Like I was doing this guy advised me to get a truck license. Now I'm making more money.
Yeah.
Like that kind of interaction, it's nice. Although there is also the downside, like language has really been an issue of late.
Really?
Yeah, big time. Because some people come zero English.
Oh, I see.
Not even one. Some guys will come and flip all of us. Like they're not happy, then they'll be like, yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. But usually for us, that's the fun part.
Yeah.
Like you get to see so many characters.
Yeah, that's true. And there's a lot of people in the construction industry are very entrepreneurial. So there's so much to learn. And I've noticed too that there's many sectors of construction that at a face value don't sound that interesting.
Yeah.
And I mean, like personally, I'm quite interested in construction, but a lot of people aren't. So a lot of people that might be working in the construction industry have really interesting lives outside of work, and that's where they get a lot of their passion from. So you meet some really unique people.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, what advice will you give someone who's just getting into sales? Maybe they've just finished university today. They're looking to get into sales. Mm-hmm. What are some of the tips you'll give them?
Well, I would say that sales is so vast and that there's so many different sectors of it.
Yeah.
So select one that you're interested in,
Yeah.
that you have some curiosity about,
Yeah.
and then you'll be more motivated and passionate about selling whatever it is you're selling.
Yeah.
So that would probably be the first thing.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is be confident, ask questions, continue learning.
Yeah.
And probably the third piece of advice I would give is looking to work for a company that you feel passionate about what you're selling.
Yeah.
Or you feel that there's a level of teamwork that your company provides you with so that you'll feel supported. Because
Yeah.
like we talked about, there's a lot of positions you'll be in that are challenging. You might have to deal with disgruntled customers.
Yeah.
So it's so important to feel supported by your team members and your company as well.
Yeah. So that's advice for, let's say now it's a young Jada, like a young lady coming into sales. How would you advise her?
To be honest, I would probably tell her, start thinking about it sooner.
Yeah.
Because for me, entering into sales was a bit of an afterthought.
Yeah.
It actually took my fiance, who was my boyfriend at the time, to tell me, have you ever thought about going into sales? It's something I think you'd be good at. And I had never thought about it before.
Yeah.
So it's something that maybe had I started thinking about sooner, I could have started honing in on some of those skills that I wanted to develop that I'm currently now beginning and continuing to develop.
Okay. So guys, that was it. I hope you guys have learned much about sales like me. And once again, Jada, thank you for coming to grace us with your presence in the studio. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank
You're
you.
welcome
Thank you for
again.
having me. It was
Yeah.
so nice to chat with you.
All right. Guys, that's it for Musa and Friends. And that was Jada Blackwood, commercial sales rep. And that's it. Ciao.